Welcome back to the Keys to Success podcast. You have your host, Talisa Stubbs. How are you doing today? We got my co-host, Deborah Douglas. What's going on, girl?
It's going good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's late, and so after this, I will be going ahead and hitting the sack. But but we've got some good things to talk about today. Today's topic, I wanted to kind of go over, some of the pros and cons of just the different real estate acquisitions. So whether it be residential or whether it be commercial, just kind of sharing with the viewers what are some things that they can expect with both of them, because I feel like both of them can be very lucrative depending on which avenue that you choose to take. And so, yeah, that's what our topic's going to be about today.
I am so excited to talk about this topic because I feel like I know the world of residential, but there is a little slight fear of learning and having to understand how you really analyze like a commercial deal and what the differences are. And honestly, my biggest thing would be like the financing. Like, how does that work? So I'm
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah, so that's really good. And then I'm not going to pretend that I'm an expert at commercial real estate because I am not, right? But I do have a little bit of insight. I'm working on doing a new build, and it's a physician's office. And so just going through this process and trying to figure out our numbers, I've learned a lot throughout the process. And honestly, a lot of the things are very similar. But when it comes to the financing, the same way that with residential, you're going to go out and, get a hard money loan or a DSCR loan or even a conventional loan or whatever. When you're dealing with commercial, you're going to get a commercial loan, right?
Right.
And so in our particular situation, one of the partners that I'm working with, he has a really great relationship with one of the banks that gives commercial loans. And so he was able to secure a commercial loan with at 5% interest.
Wow.
And the cool thing about commercial loans is it's really dependent on the tenant plays a big role in
Mhm.
how whether you get qualified for the commercial loan or not. And so when we're talking about tenants, our tenant is going to be a physician, right? But if you are doing like a dentist office, the revenue that dentist office brings in, or the revenue that physician's office brings in, really determines what your loan amount will be. And so you're not qualifying. It's so like me as the investor, I'm not qualifying for the commercial loan with my income. No, we are qualifying with the tenant's projected income.
Wow, that's good because that's literally the same way that a DSCR loan is. It's based on what the rent you're going to get from the property, and that sets the tone of what they're going to lend you and if you do qualify. So it's not really about your personal credit score, just like Talisa mentioned. It's literally what is the income. And I guess really with commercial, you're really looking at the income and how much cash flow am I really going to get? It's a business. So that's where it starts and ends.
Exactly, exactly. And so, and then same thing, how, with a conventional loan or whatever, you're going to have to put 20% down. It's the exact same thing. So we're having to raise the 20% down from a private money lender. And so it kind of all works the same way. It's just on a larger scale.
I like that. And so when you think about the larger scale, when we were talking about commercial, what identifies itself as a commercial deal?
Yeah. So like for instance, if you were investing in storage units, that's considered commercial. um, Physician's office, dentist office, even apartment complexes, large
Wow.
apartment complexes are also considered commercial real estate. Anything that is 4 units or less is going to be considered residential. So our single family homes,
Right.
our duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes, those are all going to be considered residential versus commercial.
Got it. Okay. Now, backing up just a little bit, where would you get a loan for a commercial deal? Smaller
So
banks?
yeah, exactly. Smaller banks. I'm like I said, I'm not the expert. My partner has the relationships with the bank. I don't know exactly if they're like a small bank or specifically a commercial bank. I'm not exactly sure of that. But if anybody's interested in a commercial loan, I would just go to Google, type in commercial loans near me, maybe commercial banks near me, and then just kind of go from there and start calling from there, finding out what their interest rates are, what their requirements are, and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that I thought was really cool about commercial, especially like when you're investing in something like a physician's office, is that you truly do get long term tenants. So, like, our
Mhm.
tenant is going to be signing a 15-year lease.
Wow.
And the cool thing about this is that, the way that the rent is structured, where you charge the rent based on the square footage of the property. And so, like, this tenant, we're charging him $29 per square foot, and there's 4,500 square feet in the property. Well, and actually, hold on, let me back up. The entire property is closer to about 5,500 square feet. The build out is going to be 4,500 square feet. So if you take $29 times 4,500, you're going to get $130,000 a year, right?
Yeah.
And so that $130,000 a year, divide that by 12, that's what your monthly cash flow is going to be. But what we decided to do was, instead of, so we're going to build a 4,500 square foot building, but what we're also going to do is we're going to add a patio to the back. And so there'll be basically the roof for a 5,500 square foot building. And so that patio will have like just the concrete in the roof, so that at any point, if the physician's office wants to expand, or if we want to do a build on and maybe add another tenant, maybe a smaller office building, we can do that, and we can instantly increase our rents that way. We can increase our revenue.
That is beautiful. And one thing that Talisa is mentioning is that the profit that you're going to get from commercial is going to be significantly higher than you get from residential, because now you're dealing with a larger amount, a larger area, a larger square feet. And even sometimes with commercial loans, not only are they doing it by per square feet, they also do like a triple net. So if it's like a strip mall or something of that nature, it could be a triple net lease, where in that tells whatever that company or whoever is leasing out the company, you get some of the profit that they receive monthly.
Real okay, talk
Yeah.
about that, because I was not aware of that. That's triple net. What is Break
Yeah.
that down for us, Deva.
Yeah, so the triple net lease, usually you see these in like commercial strip malls, somewhere that probably has like a bunch of different, nail shops, little shoe shops, something of that nature. That when you do sign the lease, not only are you signing a monthly lease, a monthly overhead lease, and usually that's a little bit lower. And then on top of that, you have like a triple net lease, so that whatever income they make, they get a percentage. The leasing company will get a percentage of that. You see this a lot in high-end malls. You see this a lot in just regular strip malls, because they'll make the lease low, the monthly lease, but it's depending on how much income you get. So whatever income they get, you get a little bit off the top. And one blessing that you have to think about with commercial is that it's a business. How often do you see businesses uproot and change locations? They don't do that, because when
No.
they do that, they're going to lose so much of their customers. So they're just stuck wherever they are. And as long as you're taking care of them as a commercial, property manager or however you are, they're not leaving, because they want to keep the business moving. And if they branded themselves well, they're not moving.
Woo. And I wanted to mention something else about that, because you talked about, as long as we're taking care of them and, keeping up our property management. One of the cool things that I also like about commercial is that the tenant actually is the one who pays for like the repairs and the renovations. If they want to put some granite, like for instance, if they wanted to do some granite countertops for a dentist office, or add some new cabinetry, that's all on the tenant. The the owner of the property doesn't have to get involved in that. And so I thought that was really neat compared to residential where, a
You got
tenant
to do
moves out,
everything.
you got to do everything.
Yes. Oh, that's so true. So there's a lot of pros in commercial. The only thing you do have to be mindful of is usually you're bringing a lot more money to the forefront. And that's when you have to think about, well, where am I going to get the money from? And that's where you bring partners on, you do some capital building, and that's where more people can be involved because there's a larger spread.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we're, like I was saying before, the project is a $1.8 million project. And so we will have to raise $20,000, of which we've already raised about 150,000 of that. And so basically, what we're going to do is we are going to give all of our funding partners a percentage of the equity. And when we refinance in 10 years, that's when we will basically buy them out, because we know that we still have another 5 years with this tenant, because they've already agreed to a 15-year lease. So
Right.
that last 5 years, a lot of that profit is going directly to us, the owners. But we needed those investors in order to get into the deal so that we could even, so that we could buy the land. The land is
Right.
$235,000, Um, the closing costs. We wanted to have some money, like 6 months of expenses sitting in a reserve. So we're going to raise that. And so it gives us an opportunity to acquire this asset and to serve this physician, while it also gives our investors an opportunity to make double digit returns. So it really does work for everybody, but you have to make sure that it's structured right and that you're getting enough monthly cash flow to where it seems like it's actually beneficial for your investors.
Right, right. That's beautiful. And it's one of those, like, all of the things that we're talking about may sound really scary because you're like, okay, we're talking commercial. Something about commercial just sounds very daunting and intimidating. But it's really the same thing. It's just there's probably a little bit more zeros at the end, but
Yep.
you're literally looking at the same situation. You're making sure that what I purchase, I'm going to get value for it and I'm going to cash flow. The biggest thing is just looking at the numbers, just like you would a residential, but knowing that, hey, I may need to bring more people involved. And there's greatness in bringing other people involved because you have different mindsets and different things and different opinions that's going to make everyone grow.
Exactly, exactly. And so I just wrote some little notes right here. One of the other things that I thought was really cool about commercial real estate, or it's this particular deal that we're working, is that um, in the event that the HVAC goes out, and let's say that the repair cost or the replacement cost is $7,000. Well, the tenant is responsible for $5,000 of that repair cost. So that means that us as the owners, we only have to come up with $2,000. And
Wow.
so, what we were talking on our last episode about those big four items, which is the HVAC, the roof, electrical, foundation, whatever. So knowing that the tenant is actually going to be responsible for helping us cover that kind of, it just kind of helps me sleep at night a little bit. Plus, we've got that 6 months of reserves so that, if we do have to come out of pocket, we can use that. But I just thought that was really cool because I don't know not nan residential tenant that's paying for HVAC, not even a
Oh
portion.
no. Oh no. And they are blowing you up. Don't let it be a Texas summer day. They are
Girl,
blowing you up. When is your person coming? Because I cannot do this. I feel like you should place us in a hotel. I bet you do, but
I
you
bet
won't
you
sit there.
do.
And you gonna sit there. Go next door. Go to the mall. You be all right.
Right.
Yeah, they're not doing that. They're not doing that.
They're not. So,
Now,
I mean,
something else
oh,
to
go
think
ahead.
about with commercial is there is more zeros, so that means the risk involved is a lot higher. So talk about how we negate our risk of doing something with this level or this magnitude.
Right. So when we were figuring out our numbers, we figured out our numbers on a worst case scenario. And I'll explain that. Typically, the property appraisals increase with commercial 5 to 6% annually. versus residential, it's about 2 to 3% increase in appraisal, right? And so instead of us figuring out our numbers on that 5 to 6% mark, we actually figured out our numbers at a low 3% annual increase, just in case something happens. The economy crashes, I don't know, people aren't able to do, medical in the office anymore because of COVID or whatever. They're having to do, remote doctor's visits or whatever. If anything like that happens, we just wanted to make sure that we had the room in there to be able to take a loss in those years that the economy wasn't in our favor. And so just like any other investment, there's always going to be risks, and so I always say err on the side of caution when you're figuring out your number, especially in commercial. Always look at it from a worst case scenario. And if you can still profit on a worst case scenario, then you're golden, because the likelihood of that happening is very unlikely. And so you're already projecting conservatively, right? And so, but that's what I would say. I mean, any investment is going to be risky. You want to just make sure that you're being conservative with those numbers.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So just stay conservative and really look at those numbers, have other people look at it to really give you their true opinion of what it looks like. I like that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And so what were we gonna? I wanted to go over. Oh, you know what? So with commercial, and actually, this is kind of similar to residential as well, especially when you're a buy and hold investor. But the expenses are very, very minimal, and I did
Yeah.
not expect that. So our only expenses is our mortgage payment, our insurance, and our taxes, and then obviously our payments to our private money lenders. But other than that, we have no other expenses. We don't have to worry about, water, electrical, trash, landscaping, none of those things. We don't have to worry about any of those things. The tenant takes care of all of that.
Wow, that is beautiful because with residential, you're thinking about vacancy because they may only stay for 1 year. And then now you're like having to rehab the entire property. So you're losing a lot of your money when you're doing residential. And I have heard from so many people that were investors more or less in residential, and then they switched over to commercial and like strip malls. And they say they will never go back to residential because you're not dealing with people. It's more of a business, and you're not dealing with whatever the woes. It's a business. They're going to make sure that they bring in income because that's how they live their lives as well.
Exactly, exactly. So I mean, it's a completely different dynamic. And so I know that I've been talking about like physicians' offices, but just because that's the project that I'm working on. But I also want to touch on like self storages, because
Yeah.
self storage is also a very lucrative business. And same thing, well, first of all, you don't have toilets.
Right.
So you're not having to deal with plumbing. You're not having to do, you don't need a kitchen, all those things. You've got this, box. I don't even know how many square feet. I mean, storage units can kind of range, but
Right.
the maintenance is very, very minimal. And I've heard that storage units are what is it? Recession proof, or what is
Yeah.
it called? What
Yes,
is it?
economy. I want to say recession proof because no
Yeah,
matter what, everybody got stuff and they don't have enough room in their normal home, so they need a place to put their things. And I never really thought about storage units until once my husband left education and he was in pharmaceutical sales. He had so much inventory that he had to carry to doctors' offices that his job paid for him to have a storage unit. And so, because I was always wondering, like, why do people need storage units? But you'll be surprised how so many different people need it for work. So many people need it to house, storage things. Like we have one now for all our rental properties. Storage units are very lucrative. And if you drive down a street, you're going to see about 5 to 6 different storage units.
yep. And the cool thing about that is it's easy to evict. I mean,
Yes.
somebody's not, they miss a month in, not paying their storage unit. the storage company gonna put a lock on your on your garage so that you're not able to get your stuff, and you only have a certain period of time to come
Yeah.
and pay that balance before they're auctioning your stuff off. I know y'all been seeing storage wars,
Right,
right?
right, right. That's so true. And you're not dealing with having to go to eviction court. You're not dealing with doing with any of these. Honestly, I think I done convinced myself that I need to switch over and start doing some more commercial.
Girl, you know what? Because like you were saying, I think that initially it just seems so intimidating when you think
Yes,
of commercial. I know for me it did, because I was like, well, dang, that's a lot of money and that's a lot of responsibility. But then when you start looking into it, I'm like, this is so much easier.
yes.
You
It
know,
really
it
is.
just has a stigma, and I guess it's because it's commercial.
Right.
People automatically get like intimidated by it. But I want the viewers to see that it's actually less intimidating and less headache when you are dealing with commercial. I mean, you've still got to do your due diligence and everything else, but ultimately you're able to sleep a little better at night because of some of the things you don't have to worry about.
Absolutely. Because we all get those emails or we get text messages from our tenants that are like, hey, we only say hey because there's something wrong. You don't call me when you paid the rent on time. You do not call me when everything is great and the heater is blowing great and the AC is cooling you down. You don't call me with that. You call me when
No.
something is in the fan, either you can't pay rent or something is broken. So having that relief and moving to commercial actually may be a lot better.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's my take on commercial. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I don't know everything. I'm literally just going based off what I've experienced just within the last like 2 months. But just from what I've seen so far, it's a very good option. And you guys, I'm like I said, I'm new to this. I'm very brand new to this and building a physician's office from the ground up. I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything, but I've partnered with people who do know,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so, you find where you fit in and you bring value and you add enough value, and you can make something like this happen as well.
Absolutely. And the biggest thing is to do it scared. Do it while you're walking in the dark because God will connect you with the right people to lead you down that path. So, oh my gosh, I hope you guys learned a lot from this call. I hope you understand, pushing yourself to understand, hey, residential seems easy and it's a great way to get into it. But when you really are ready to make some really big waves and get a higher return, it's okay to dabble into the commercial because that's when you're going to really see higher profits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. And so, like we always say, you guys, thank you for tuning in. We hope that we're bringing you guys value. Every time Deb and I talk, we're like, okay, what should our topic be? And we're really thinking about our viewers and what you guys need. And so, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening.
Yes.
Please tell us what else you guys want to hear, even if we don't know all the information on the topic. We will bring on a guest who is
Yes.
an expert in that area so that you guys can get that information. And so, as always, we love you, we thank you, and we will see you guys next week.
Stay blessed.
Bye.